Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. So it is again another topic. It's again one of the strange, very confusing topics. And unfortunately, there are brothers who believe on these type of issues. And our stand about the attributes of God, we say Allah doesn't look like anyone. And Allah doesn't sit, doesn't get up, doesn't jump, doesn't turn right, doesn't turn left, and doesn't bow, okay, and doesn't jump just to come over himself. All of them are impossible to be attributed to God. Where is the proof? We say Allah not attributing it to himself, it is the proof. Look, it's very important thing, because right now, recently I was reading the book of one of the Hanafi scholars, and right now his title is the main Imam of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So then he did attribute the letter to God. And then his proof was, because I haven't found any of the Salaf al-Salihin, Sahaba Tabain, saying that God doesn't speak with a letter. I say, I'm really sorry, Imam Sahab, if Salaf Salihin and Sahaba, they didn't deny one attribute from God, it's not proof that it is there. Okay, so we say in terms of the Aqeeda, we say anything which is not attributed to God through mutawatir chain, it is denied from him. That's it. So you cannot say after a while saying, okay, there is no any Quran or Hadith saying that God doesn't have that. Okay, we say Allah not attributing that to himself through authentic mutawatir chain means it's not there. Okay, just another example for you guys. So there was some incident between Ibn Hibban and some of the Mujassim people. So Ibn Hibban is very famous scholar, Muhaddith, Amir min fil Hadith. So basically he used to follow the Ash'ari position. So he used to say God is not limited by anything, not by space and not by anything else. So then one of the people of that time, Mujassims of that time, so they did stone him and then they throw him out, saying it is bid'ah because God is limited actually. By space actually, according to them. Okay, so then Zahabi mentions that story, and after that he says it's better, means both of them are wrong, it's better to not to get engaged into that. I say it is better to not to get engaged, but Ibn Hibban is right. Okay, but Zahabi, his point is, because Allah didn't say that he's not limited, as well as Allah didn't say that he's limited. Means we shouldn't say it. We say Allah not attributing something to himself is disproving other thing. Means God not attributing is proof that that's not attributed to God. That is the main thing. So we shouldn't twist and make the principle upside down. So we shouldn't say that because he's not Allah is not denying that attribute from him means it is possible. We say it's other way around. Allah not attributing something to himself means it is not attributed. That is the proof of not being permissible to attribute it. So that's the main principle. So anyway, and again, it's very now it became very controversial thing now only to say that, okay, look guys, you Maturidis and Ash'aris, you only accept in Aqeeda only the mutawatir, but ahad also has to be taken. We say the possibility of one of the narrators mistaking is there in ahad. Okay, and the attributes of God, it is something to do with belief and non-belief. Okay, so we have to go with the certainty. Okay, because it's now, for example, in the previous lecture we saw that only because of one narrator making mistakes, so whole, you can say, Aqeeda has been established on that weak hadith, and all of them were wrong. And what's the reason of that? Because only one narrator did that mistake. So we do not want to do it. So we have to be 100% confident that Rasulullah did say, and after that we do attribute that that thing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or otherwise we do not attribute nothing by using ahad or analogy. Inshallah, in the future lectures, inshallah, I will give you an examples in which the brothers, for example, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, attributing some certain sifat to God by using analogy. Okay, so according to them, not only khabar al-ahad, but even the qiyas is permissible to be used to attribute some certain sifat to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we are very strict. We say we have to be 100% confident that Rasulullah did attribute this to God, and after that we take. But if it is doubtful, there is portion of one of the narrators mistaking, okay, and other possibilities, we do not attribute it to God. Okay, so that is a very important thing. Anyway, so today's issue about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sitting on the chair, and there will be 4 fingers just next to him, next to God, in which Rasulullah will sit Yawm al-Qiyamah, and that is al-Maqam al-Mahmud that Allah did promise His Messenger. Okay, so we say there is no any authentic hadith from the Prophet. Inshallah, now we're going to just revise all of them. And first of all, before I go, no, definitely brothers will not like that. Now I will use my brain. Now my question, because hadith that they quote means something, so I want to understand the meaning. Because hadith says, that fabricated hadith, that there is emptiness of 4 fingers next to God. Now my question, what do you mean 4 fingers? Whose fingers are these 4? It's 100% not the fingers of the Prophet. Because let's just imagine, is it the size of sitting place? So then whose fingers are them for? Definitely God's finger. So if that is the size of 4 fingers in which Rasulullah can occupy all of them, now we can measure the size of God. So here's something about, if Rasulullah when he sits, he's going to occupy the size of 4 fingers of God, means God is something about 9 to 10 meters, you know. Which is, what are talking about? 4 fingers of whom, you know? Recently I've been asked about the same thing, and one of the ignorant brothers did ask me. So when I did reply back, so when I did narrate that hadith, and then I said it's fabricated. So he said, Sheikh Sahab, actually, for me to understand that hadith is not authentic, I don't need your confirmation to say that it's fabricated, because from just hearing, listening to it, my nature finds it strange. Fingers of whom? Okay? So all of them are fabricated hadith. There is no any authentic hadith. Anyway, let's go revise. Because unfortunately right now, some of the Hanafi brothers are making issue of it, saying that that is the Maqam Mahmud, 4 fingers next to God, etc. And there is a new opinion, it's not 4 fingers next to God, but there will be another arsh also next to God's arsh, you know. So, okay, so there is the hadith. So it is narrated by Ibn Khuzaymah in the book of Tawheed. So Asma bint Umays says that I went to the Habasha, Ethiopia, first migration with Ja'far al-Tayyar. She is his wife. So then she says, I saw some lady lifting a weed on her head in some container, and someone came and then slapped her, so that a container fell down and wind came and then thrown the weed. And then that lady shouted saying, أَكِلُكَ إِلَى الْمَلِكِ يَوْمَ يَقْعُدُ عَلَى الْكُرْسِي وَيَأْخُذُ لِلْمَظْلُومِ مِنَ الظَّالِمِ. I just leave the judgment of you to God in the day in which يَقْعُدُ عَلَى He will sit on the kursi. Okay? So that's what they refer to. Okay, so that's the first proof that God is sitting on the kursi. And the second is hadith of Aisha, hadith of Ibn Abbas. All of them are fabricated, just for information. So then Rasulullah says, according to this narration, فَآتِي رَبِّي فَأَجِدُهُ عَلَى كُرْسِيهِ أَوْ عَلَى سَرِيرِهِ جَالِسًا. So in this hadith, according to them, Rasulullah says, then in Yawm al-Qiyamah I will go to meet God and I will find Him sitting on the kursi or on the sarir. Sarir is bad actually. Okay, or you can say that throne or whatever. And the next is from Anas, فَأَجِدُهُ قَاعِدًا عَلَى كُرْسِي الْعِزَّةِ. When I will come in Yawm al-Qiyamah, I will find God sitting on the kursi of the glory. Okay, the next hadith from Abu Hurairah, فَإِذَا نَزَلَ إِلَى سَمَاءِ الدُّنْيَا جَلَسَ عَلَى كُرْسِي. And whenever Allah comes to the closest heaven, He will sit on His kursi in that, because as you know, those brothers believe that there are kursi chairs in each single heaven. So altogether there will be 8. And the main one is that one, and there are each one in each heaven. Okay? Yeah. As well as there is some narration from Qatada in which he says that when God sits on His kursi and further whatever happens, as well as something similar has been narrated from Umar ibn al-Khattab okay, and all of them are batil and fabricated ahadith, okay, but unfortunately there are some brothers, they don't mind to take that type of ahadith into their belief. So anyway, now if you can just, so the last thing, it is in narrated from Abdullah ibn Imam Ahmad. So he's not Imam Ahmad but his son, in his book called Kitab al-Tawheed, very famous, okay. So in there he did narrate the hadith in which some lady came to Rasulullah saying, Udu Allah an yudkhilani al-Jannah, please can you make dua for me so Allah will send me to paradise. So then Rasulullah fa'azzama ar-Rabb, Rasulullah praised God, and after that Rasulullah recited the ayah in which Allah says, وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So the kursi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wasi'a, means it is wider, okay, and there are some other interpretation of this ayah. And then Rasulullah after that said, إِنَّهُ يَقْعُدُ عَلَيْهِ جَلَّ وَعَزَّ فَمَا يَفْضُلُ مِنْهُ إِلَّا قَيْدَ أَرْبَعَ أَصَابِعَ وَإِنَّ لَهُ أَطِيتًا كَأَطِيتِ الرَّحْلِ إِذَا رَكِبَ. And Allah will sit on it, on kursi, in Yawm al-Qiyamah, and when He sits on it, there will be only extra empty of forefinger. And when He sits on it, there will be voice, you know, of when you sit on the saddle, you know. Creak, yeah. And we don't need any proof to prove that it is all of them fabricated, because even Salafis cannot use these ahadith, amara, because they do not believe that God sits on the kursi. Kursi is the foot step, what do they call it?
Footstool.
Footstool, yeah. Because they believe that arsh is where, but all of them ahadith are disproving their point, that God sits on the arsh and not on the footstool, you know. But these ahadith are proving that God will sit on the footstool. Okay, so they shouldn't back up these type of fabricated ahadith. So it's my just advice. Yes. So only extra forefinger will remain. Yes, it's a bit strange. So anyway, I don't want to go to the anyway, all of them fabricated and batil and makdhoob. Okay, so the false ahadith. And the next is so in terms of four fingers being extra empty place. So it has been narrated through two different ways. In one, it says there will be extra forefinger space, and in different, there will not be any extra, even for four fingers. Then Ibn Taymiyyah did mention this in Fatawa book. Inshallah, the references are available. So then Ibn Taymiyyah actually said that he has disproven that there will be extra four fingers. Means there is no space, according to Ibn Taymiyyah, there is no space where Rasulullah sits. Why? His reason for that is, if we will say that there will be four fingers extra, means Arsh is bigger than God. But we believe that God is bigger than. So it's, what are you talking about? So it means God being bigger is in size, in shape. Okay? Because if Arsh will be bigger, so in that case, if there will not be extra forefinger, using the same analogy, means it's correct that nothing is bigger than God, but there is something equals Him, Arsh. Same analogy, using same analogy. Okay? But definitely I believe that they will not allow us to use the same analogy, which they can use. Because then it will go against them. So they can use only the bit which supports them, but not something that goes against them. So it's just a bit funny.
So Sheikh, can I ask, why would a top scholar like Ibn Taymiyyah use a fabricated hadith?
No. Okay, thank you. Really good question. So anyway, then he came back in his book. So he says that all of them ahadith in the attributed, when it's attributed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Rasulullah said all of them are mawdu'a, fabricated. But then he said, but only the authentic narration is from Mujahid. It's the statement, declaration of Mujahid, and not the ahadith of. And all of them ahadith, when it says Rasulullah, he is the one who did make that statement. Ibn Taymiyyah said all of them are mawdu'a. But only the authentic chain, and even that one is according to Zahabi is weak, and inshallah I'm going to speak about it. So he says, Ibn Taymiyyah says, only the reliable one is that it's not the word of the Prophet, but it is the word of Mujahid, one of the Tabi'in. Okay, so not only the analogy can be taken about the attributes of God, but even the testimony of the statement of the Tabi'in could be taken. And you know, it's very well known that Rasulullah gave permission to the Sahaba to narrate from the Ahlul Kitab. Do you remember? So that's why we do have not only the Tabi'in, but even some of the Sahaba narrating. Ibn Abbas, Abu Hurairah, they are very well known of narrating the stories of Ahlul Kitab. They're very well known. So in these type of statements, to say that even though if it is Mujahid, he is the one who is saying, it is not something that he could know by analogy, but only by the statement of the Prophet. I say it is not very accurate, because there was another source which could be possible, which is the Banu Israel, Israeliyat. So to say that if hadith is authentic till Mujahid, so the rest we are happy. I say please do not be happy, because it is correct, I agree that you cannot know it by analogy, but it doesn't mean that if you cannot know by analogy, it's the Prophet who said it, because there is another source is still available, okay, which is Israeliyat. And we do know the quotation from the Gospels in which they do have this kind of statements. Am I right? Okay, so one is not more superior to the other. So you cannot say it is only the source of the Prophet. I say you cannot say that, because there is another source is still available. So we say it is the statement of Mujahid. Please do not attach it to the Prophet. Yeah, that's it.
So, but Ibn Taymiyyah, who some people take as a top scholar, I mean, I don't, but he did use this logic you just said. So he did say it's fine to take this narration.
Yeah. So in my copy it says that Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah is taking the narration in which there will not be even the space for 4 fingers. He took that narration on top of the other one, saying that the reason of that is then it will necessitate that Arsh is bigger than God.
Right.
Okay, so then according to the same analogy, Arsh equals God then. So nothing is bigger, but there are some things which will be equal. So it's just a strange thing actually.
And definitely there's a size. Because if he's saying about bigger, smaller, when Arsh has a size.
Definitely, Arsh is makhluk. Now it is 100% tajsim. Because God compared to the makhluk. Being bigger in 4 fingers, all of them makhluk. Even some of the brothers say that it is 4 fingers and other things are mutashabih. And Arsh and everything, Rasulullah sitting next to that 4 fingers. So what do you mean? Rasulullah is not mutashabih, Arsh is not mutashabih, and size of Arsh is not also mutashabih. So do not try to give an excuse. Say hadith is fabricated, that's it. Please relax, you know. So it's the same thing again. If you are the one who is supporting your belief, means your belief is weak. But belief should be something which supports you, not other way around, you know. It's very... Anyway, Ibn Qayyim al-Juziyya, he did mention this in terms of Ar-Radd al-Jahmiyya, and after that, do you know Abu Dawood? Do you know the author of Sunan Abi Dawood? So he did mention this hadith, and after that, the narration of Mujahid, the statement of Mujahid, and then Abu Dawood, you know, Abu Dawood is the direct student of Imam Ahmad. So after that, he said, Man ankara hadha fahuwa indana mutam. Anyone who denies the narration, the statement of Mujahid, he is muttaham, means without on his iman. Albani says about the statement of Mujahid, hadith is weak. Imam Zahabi says weak. Okay, and then Ibn Taymiyyah himself, he did say all of the narrations from the Prophet, all of them are fabricated. Means there is nothing that you can be happy, you know, that you can catch.
So Sheikh Abu Dawood says anyone who denies the statement of Mujahid,
muttaham, means he has got some evil in his heart.
So he's saying it's authentic, then, isn't it?
Abu Dawood, yes, correct, yes.
And even Albani is saying that it's even Albani is saying it's fabricated.
In terms of course, in terms of when it is attributed to the Prophet. But the hadith statement of Mujahid, he says it's weak.
Right.
The Zahabi also says weak. But who said that hadith of the Prophet are fabricated? Albani did mention them. So there are 3 hadith mainly. So about 1 he said mawdu', about 2 he said batil. Ibn Taymiyyah said about all of them fabricated.
Right.
And also Imam Zahabi said, there is no any reliable. Okay, so only they can insist only on one thing, which is the statement of Mujahid. So even so, what I'm saying, just to support the brothers, I'm saying let's support that the authentic. The chain back to Mujahid was authentic, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he heard that from the Prophet, from the Sahabi, from the Prophet, because there is another option is still open, available. Israeliyat. Because not only Tabi'in, but even the Sahaba, they did narrate the Israeliyat, and it was fine. Ibn Abbas, okay, Abu Hurairah, and all of them, they did narrate. Okay, or for example, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, he did narrate the Israeliyat. Okay, so, or for example, Wahb ibn Munabbih, Hasan al-Basri, all of them, they did narrate Israeliyat because Rasulullah gave permission. So, just Mujahid making some statement, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is from the Prophet. Okay, because there is another option, is still there. Yeah, but it's not that. Forget about reaching Mujahid, but on the way of Mujahid there is weak narrator. On top of that, we do have authentic hadith from the statement of Mujahid, in which Mujahid says Maqam Mahmud is not Rasulullah sitting on the arsh, but it is when Rasulullah will make shafa'ah to all people of the mahshar. Okay, so statement of Mujahid through authentic chain is contradicting with his own statement through the weak chain, you know. So it's just darknesses on top of the darknesses, you know.
But Abu Dawood said still.
Not only him, but there are many others actually. So for example, and also Abu Dawood says, ما زال الناس يحدثون بهذا يريدون مغايظة الجهمية وذلك أن الجهمية ينكرون أن على العرش شيء. So Abu Dawood says, or most likely it is from Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, it's my quotation actually. So it's from Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, sorry. So the Salafus Salih, I mean the people, they carried on narrating this hadith of Mujahid. And what's the hadith of Mujahid? Mujahid says, Maqam Mahmud is when Allah will make the Prophet to sit next to him. Okay? So then Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah says that people carried on narrating the statement of Mujahid just to hurt or just to harm the Jahmis. Okay, why? Because Jahmis used to deny that there is anything sitting on the arsh. Did you understand? Yeah. And then the next is Abu Bakr ibn Abi Talib. So he says, one of the as far as I remember, he's from the 3rd century. Okay, so he's one of the teachers of Imam Bukhari, as far as I remember. Man raddahu faqad radda ala Allah azza wa jalla. So anyone who denies the statement of Mujahid, so he is not denying Mujahid, but he's denying God. I mean, replying not accepting what God says. وَمَنْ كَذَّبَ بِفَضِيلَةِ النَّبِي صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم فَقَدْ كَفَرَ بِاللَّهِ. And anyone who denies the virtue of the Prophet, so he is kafir by God. Why? Because it is honor of the Prophet to sit on the arsh. So if you will deny this hadith, means you're not denying that statement, but you're denying the virtue of the Prophet, and anyone who denies the virtue of the Prophet, he's denying the God actually. So, you know, I'm really sorry, Imam Sahab, but Rasulullah will not be honored by sitting on the arsh, because Rasulullah is much better than arsh. Okay, so this hadith, even if it's authentic, then it is honoring the arsh by Prophet, not honoring the Prophet by arsh, you know. So it doesn't make sense, you know. So if someone denies the statement of Mujahid, it doesn't mean that I don't believe that Rasulullah is great. Okay, so it's a bit strange. And another one, Abdul Wahhab al-Warraq, again one of the earliest scholars. So he says, رد فضيلة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في ما يقعده على العرش فهو متهم. Anyway, so someone came. So the statement in me, just in my book, it has got some mistake. So قال عبد الوهاب الوراق للذي رد فضيلة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقعده على العرش فهو متهم على الإسلام. So anyway, someone came to this scholar actually denying that Rasulullah will sit next to God. So then this person said, Abdul Wahhab al-Warraq said, anyone who denies this hadith, so we actually doubt on him being Muslim. So it is going that extreme. So maybe these type of quotations just speeded up the brother's emotions, maybe. Yeah. And also there are many other quotations in which he says, Abu al-Abbas Harun ibn al-Abbas al-Hashimi is one of the teachers of Imam Bukhari. So he says, Man radda hadith Mujahid fahuwa indi jahmi. Anyone who denies the statement hadith of Mujahid, so he is, according to me, is Jahmi. Okay, so that's how, and carries on saying, وَمَنْ رَدَّ فَضْلَ النَّبِي صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم فَهُوَ زِنْدِيقٌ لَا يُسْأَلُ. And anyone who denies the virtue of the Prophet, so he is heretic, and we do not ask him for the repentance, you know. وَيُخْتَرُ لِأَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ قَدْ فَضَلَهُ عَلَى الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. Because the virtue of the Prophet is not doubtable, and Allah has given to the Prophet ﷺ superiority above the prophets. Of course, no doubt, but it's not by Rasulullah sitting on the arsh. Okay, but arsh will be honored by the Prophet, as we mentioned. Okay, so it's just very extreme, you can say, expression of whatever they say. So them are the statements are coming actually. And then again, Sheikh Uthaymeen mentions that in Majmu' al-Fatawa also, إذا تبين هذا, so after just confirming the hadith of Mujahid, so he says, also he brought the statements of the scholars, all of them scholars, so he says, فقد حدث العلماء المرضيون وأولياؤه المقبولون أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يجلسه ربه على العرش معه. So after that we say that reliable scholars as well as the awliya of God who actually made the statement that Rasulullah, Allah will make the Prophet to sit on his arsh ma'ahu, next to him, with him actually. Okay, so that's the statement of that. So all of them are coming from these type of statements. Again, the same Abdul Wahhab al-Warraq says, Man radda hadha al-hadith, for anyone who denies this hadith of Mujahid, so he is Jahmi. Okay, and it just carries on. A lot of quotations. So anyone who denies it in total, all of the meaning of that statement, he is either kafir or either heretic or either Jahmi. Okay, so in the best situation, he is Jahmi actually.
Sheikh, can you tell us a bit about the Jahmis?
Jahmi is coming from Jahm bin Safwan al-Kufi al-Basri. So there was some Jahm bin Safwan who denied the attributes of God, not sitting, standing, but attributes anything. For example, knowledge of God. God knows, but with no knowledge. Okay, you cannot say that God is. So you cannot attribute speech to God. You cannot attribute knowledge. You cannot attribute anger and anything, because all of them you are giving some shape or you are giving similarity to the creature. So he did ignore all of them, or he denied all of these attributes. Okay. So from there, actually, whenever they say Jahmi, they mean the people who are denying the attribute. So Jahm bin Safwan, so he went to Tirmidh, and that's how he became as Jahm bin Safwan at-Tirmidhi, or otherwise he's Arabian from Kufa, and he lived in Basra, and he settled also in Damascus also. So he is Jahm bin Safwan al-Basri. That's what he is. Okay. Anyway. So, and also in terms of we do have authentic ahadith from Rasulullah in which Rasulullah is explaining what's the meaning of al-maqam al-mahmud. Okay, in the authentic ahadith, Rasulullah says that it is when everyone will be in the hardship in mahshar, and then people will go to Adam and the rest of the prophets, and only Rasulullah will respond saying, I am the one who will do this shafa'ah. So they said, Rasulullah said, that is the al-maqam al-mahmud. Okay, but in no any of the authentic ahadith, Rasulullah says that I will sit with God next to him, just 4 fingers there. It's nothing about that. All of them are fabricated ahadith. You cannot rely on any of them.
But Ibn Taymiyyah does rely on them.
On Mujahid, yes.
Yeah.
On the statement of Mujahid. So what he says that as you can see, that the reliable scholars as well as the awliya of God, they did make this statement that Rasulullah will be sitting next to him, with him, in Yawm al-Qiyamah on Arsh. Okay. So it is a bit strange.
And these scholars he quotes are actually making an issue of a big issue out of it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And anyway, the narrator that is narrating the so in terms of the marfu' hadith, all of them fabricated, as Albani said, as Ibn Taymiyyah, all of them. So only the problem is Mujahid, because in the statement of Mujahid he says, "Yujlisuhu Allahu ma'ahu ala al-arsh." Allah will make him to sit next to him on arsh. Ma'ahu means with him. Okay, so that's the problem. Anyway, So what is the chain of that? So in the chain of that narration, we do have someone. So here is the chain of the hadith, of the statement of Mujahid. So it is coming from Abbad ibn Yaqub al-Asadi قال حدثنا ابن فضل عن ليث عن مجاهد. So that is the narration, that is the chain. So this Layth is not Layth ibn Sa'd al-Musri, Imam al-Mujtahid, but he is Layth ibn Abi Sulaym. Okay? And then Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani mentioned him in Fath al-Bari, said Layth, this one, Layth ibn Abi Sulaym, is da'if, weak. Okay, so we will not reach Mujahid, through authentic chain. There is no any authentic chain. As well as Al-Maqdisi in his book Ma'rifah, so he says that Layth ibn Abi Sulaym تركه يحيى القطان يحيى ibn Sa'id al-Qattan wa Abdul Rahman ibn al-Mahdi wa Ahmad wa Yahya. So Layth ibn Sulaym, this narrator from Mujahid, so Yahya Ibn Sa'id al-Qattan, one of the great. So he says that he is weak, as well as Abdul Rahman bin Mahdi, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and Yahya ibn Ma'in. All of them scholars, they left the hadith of Layth ibn Abi Sulaym, as well as Nasbur Ra'ya and fi takhrij hadith Zayla'i. Okay, so he says Layth ibn Abi Sulaym is da'if inda ahl al-hadith. According to the scholars of hadith, Layth ibn Abi Sulaym is weak. So far, there is nothing that we can back up the opinion of those brothers. Yeah, as well as even Sheikh Nasruddin al-Albani did mention him. So he said in his book called Silsila al-Dha'ifa, Silsila al-Hadith al-Dha'ifa, so he says, Layth ibn Abi Sulaym da'ifun bittifaqihim. Means, Layth ibn Abi Sulaym is, according to all of them, is weak. Bittifaqihim means by their ijma', by their ittifaq. So then he says, so according to that, we cannot accept any of the ahadith. So anything which is attached to the Prophet, fabricated or batil, and only the thing that they can refer to is the Mujahid, and Mujahid will reach to him through Layth ibn Abi Sulaym. And you can see what they say about Layth ibn Abi Sulaym. So there is no any basis. There is no any basis for this type of ahadith.
But Sheikh, does that mean there's a disagreement between Ibn Taymiyyah and Albani then?
Yes, of course, there are not only one, there are a lot of them,
Okay.
Okay, so for example, Albani doesn't agree with Ibn Taymiyyah in the thing in which he says Ibn Taymiyyah says there was no time in which God was alone, on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you say so, means you are neglecting the attribute of God of creating.
Mm-hmm.
Albani denies that. Is incorrect. So Albani agrees with us, saying there was a time in which God was only on his own. Hadith is in Bukhari. كان الله وليس معه شيء. Okay, there was God and nothing with him. Okay, and in different narration, كان الله وليس قبله شيء. There was God in which so the hadith of Bukhari كان الله وليس قبله شيء. There is nothing before him.
Right.
But hadith which says كان الله وليس معه, that is the thing which goes against the statement of Ibn Taymiyyah. So some of the scholars had their own pick on it. Okay, because according to them, there was no time in which God was on his own. All the time there was something, because God is creating. Albani doesn't agree with Ibn Taymiyyah. So there are a few other issues in which they disagree with amongst each other. Albani disagrees with Ibn Baz, and them too disagree with Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah disagrees with Albani, and them triangle, they disagree with each other actually. Yeah. There are a few issues actually. As well as there is another hadith about from Sayyidah Aisha, in which from Sayyidah Aisha and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam again says that عسى أن يبعثك ربك مقاما محمودا, about the translation of Maqam Mahmud. Rasulullah ﷺ said, يجلسني على العرش, Allah will make me to sit on the arsh. Okay, so that hadith is also, Albani said, batil. And Imam Dhahabi said, hadithun munkar is weak hadith. Munkar is one of the lowest, you can say, the most weak hadith. So he says, Dhahabi says, in the chain we have Salama, and he is matrukul hadith. So he used to lie. Matruk al-hadith means the person who used to lie in normal conversation, so his hadith will be munkar, as well as the Ash'ath who is narrating it from Ibn Mas'ud is lam yalhaq Ibn Mas'ud, so he never met Ibn Mas'ud. Okay, so it is munqata' matruk hadith, so it's very weak. So there is nothing we can back up. And then let's go back. Imam Zahabi is actually narrating in his book called Tarikh al-Islam, the history of Islam, in the volume number 23. He says about the fitna of Maqam al-Mahmud, the ayah of Maqam al-Mahmud. So he says, قد هاجت ببغداد فتنة كبرى بسبب قوله عسى أن يبعثك ربك مقاما محمودا فقالت الحنابلة معناه يقعده الله على عرشه كما فسره مجاهد وقال غيرهم من العلماء بل هي الشفاعة العظمى كما صح في الحديث ودام الخصام والشتم واقتتلوا حتى قتل جماعة كبيرة إلى آخره. So then Zahabi mentions that in that period in Baghdad big fitna happened. Okay, and the reason of that fitna is this ayah, عسى أن يبعثك ربك مقاما محمودا. So then Hanabila said that Allah will make him to sit on Arsh. And the rest of the scholars said that بل هي شفاعة. They said it is the greatest shafa'ah, that is the maqam mahmud. Okay, so the problem in that time was between Hanabila and the rest of the ummah. Okay, but now even some of the Hanafis are engaged to back up the Hanabila. So then he says, carries on, Zahabi says, وَدَامَ الْخِصَامُ وَالشَّتَمُ. So then people carried on insulting and debating with each other, وَاقْتَتَلُوا, and even they started killing each other. So some group of people have been killed because of this fitna matter. Okay, so why do we need to bring this fitna back again to the life? Let's leave it there, you know. Ya Allah. And also in Mu'jam al-Udaba, and also in many other sources, in the biography of Imam Tabari, everyone knows Muhammad Jarir Tabari, the Mufassir and Mujtahid scholar. So he mentions a very beautiful story again about him. When Imam Tabari came back after researching, after making his own a journey of knowledge, then he moved from Tabaristan, he moved to Baghdad. So then a few scholars, so they had some certain issues with Tabari. So then when he came, Hanabila invited him into their circle, and after that they did ask Imam Tabari after Salat al-Jum'ah about two questions. What do you think about Imam Ahmad, and what do you think about Rasulullah sitting on Arsh? Because in that case, in that time, it was the matter of Imam Ahmad being mujtahid faqih or only muhaddith. Okay, so they wanted to get confirmation from Imam Tabari that he believed that Imam Ahmad is mujtahid. As well as they wanted to test his aqeeda about, do you believe that Rasulullah sits with God or not? So these two questions. So then, فقال أبو جعفر, Imam Tabari said, أما أحمد بن حنبل فلا يعد خلافه. Imam Ahmad, if he disagrees in any of the fiqh issues, we just ignore him. It was really bad slap to the Hanabila. فقالوا له, they said, فقد ذكره العلماء في الاختلاف. But oh Tabari, how you are saying it when scholars did mention his opinions in the disagreed upon issues, that he takes share on that disagreement. فقال Imam Tabari said ما رأيته روي عنه ولا رأيت له أصحابا يعول عليهم. So he said, I haven't seen any opinions that we can rely on, and I do not know any of his students who are actually reporting his madhab. But then he said وأما حديث الجلوس على العرش فمحال. Then he said, but in terms of Rasulullah sitting on Arsh, that is muhal, that's impossible. And then Imam Tabari mentioned some poem in which it says, Subhana man laysa lahu anisun wala lahu fi arshihi jalisun. The one who doesn't have anis. Anis is you feel tranquility with. If that person is not there, you feel how to say it? You feel not comfortable, you know. So the one who doesn't have anyone who will make him to have tranquility, as well as the one who doesn't have anyone who will sit with him, okay, so that person is pure. Allah is pure. Okay. فلما سمع ذلك الحنابلة منه وأصحاب الحديث وثبوا ورموه بمحابر. So when they've heard these two statements, they got up, the muhaddithin and the narrators and the Hanabila, and they started throwing on him the ink pots, you know. Yeah, and also they say that there were thousands who were throwing ink pots on him. So then Abu Ja'far al-Tabari, he just stood up and then he went back running to his house. And then people, these Hanabila, they went and they stoned his house. So even they say Khalifa sent soldiers just to protect Imam Tabari as well as to get rid of the stones. So they say on daily basis they would take a lot of stones which would block his door, you know. Okay, so that all of that happened. And whatever happened after that, and then Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tabari actually changed his opinion about Imam Ahmad. Okay, then Imam Tabari mentioned some of the virtues and some of the opinions of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal just to kill the problem, and the problem has been sorted, inshallah. Okay, so anyway.
But Sheikh, what are you saying then that the opinion of Hanbalis is that there is this four fingers thing and all that?
Yeah, it is, yes, correct, yes.
And do they trace that to Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal himself?
They do, yes, they do. Well, it's very strange, yeah. But anyway, it is the opinion of his son, Abdullah ibn Imam Ahmad also. Okay, so it's...
Is his son mentioned with a Hashawiyya? Is his son...
He's Hashawi, yes, no
right.
doubt, yes.
Okay.
He's Hashawi, no doubt.
So that's not controversial, that's...
Yeah,
like,
exactly. He's one of them. He's one of them, no doubt.
Right.
He's one of them, no doubt. But in terms of, right now, I do have in my hand many ahadith in which Rasulullah ﷺ explains what Maqam Mahmud is. So then, it is authentic ahadith. It's not so weak as the fabricated ahadith or the statement of Mujahid. Okay. So in the authentic ahadith, Rasulullah ﷺ says, just a moment. قال رسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام says تمد الأرض يوم القيامة مدا لعظمة الرحمن. So in يوم القيامة land will be made straight, okay, by the glory of God or for the glory of God. ثم لا يكون لبشر من بني آدم إلا موضع قدمه. And after that, each single human being will have only the space to put his feet. There will not be enough space in them. And then ثم أدعى أول الناس. And after that, I will be called as the first person. So the first person who will be called in that day is Mhmd Adnan Darwish عليه الصلاة والسلام. فأخر ساجدا. So I will fall into the sajda. ثم يؤذن لي فأقوم. And after that, Allah will give me permission to get up. So I will get up. فأقول, and after that I will say, يا رب أخبرني هذا جبريل وهو عن يمين الرحمن والله ما رآه جبريل قبلها قط أنك أرسلته إليه. So then Rasulullah says, Rasulullah says, so then I will say, Jibreel ﷺ told me, and أنك أرسلته إليه, that you did send Jibreel to me. قال جبريل قال, and then in that time when Rasulullah says that, Jibreel ساكت. Jibreel will be silent when Rasulullah will be speaking. لا يتكلم, and then he's not speaking. حتى يقول الله, till Allah will say صدق. Allah will say, yes, he said the truth, that I am the one who sent him to you. ثم يؤذن لي في الشفاعة. And after that, Allah will give me permission to make shafa'at, الشفاعة الأولى. So the first, even the greatest shafa'ah. فأقول, so I will say, يا رب عبادك عبدوك في أطراف الأرض. So then I will say, Ya Allah, your slaves did worship you everywhere in this dunya, in this land, in this. So then Rasulullah says, فَذَلِكَ الْمَقَامُ الْمَحْمُودُ. So that is the al-maqam al-mahmud. So this authentic hadith, so in here it says that hadith is sahih according to Bukhari and Muslim. Okay. So these are the, and also we do have many other hadiths, and in all of them, Rasulullah ﷺ is saying that الشفاعة العظمى, that is the المقام المحمود, but not sitting with God next to him on top of the four fingers of someone, it's not that. Yes, so as you can see, there are many hadith about the authentic things. But what about, because unfortunately, those brothers who are saying that Rasulullah will sit next to God, so some of them are Hanafis. Okay, so just I want to remind what Imam Abu Hanifa says in Wasiyya about God sitting, standing. So Abu Hanifa says, نقر is Wasiyya. نقر بأن الله سبحانه وتعالى على العرش استوى. We do admit, as Allah says, الرحمن على العرش استوى. We do admit, we do accept it. من غير أن يكون له حاجة واستقرار عليه. But it doesn't mean that Allah needs arsh or Allah settles on arsh. It doesn't mean that. We don't say that. وهو حافظ العرش. But Allah is the one who maintains the arsh, and arsh doesn't maintain him. وغير العرش, as well as Allah maintains everything beside arsh also. من غير احتياج, without being in need. Then he says, فلو كان محتاجا لما قدر على إيجاد العالم. Because if he would need to sit, means he wouldn't be able to create the universe. And then after that he says, وَلَوْ كَانَ مُحْتَاجًا إِلَى الْجُلُوسِ وَالْقَرَارِ. And if Allah would need sitting or settling, فَقَبْلَ خَلْقِ الْعَرْشِ أَيْنَ كَانَ. So before creating arsh, where he was sitting or where he was settling. Then he says, Abu Hanifa says, تَعَالَى اللَّهُ عَنْ ذَلِكَ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. And Allah is pure from all of these things. As well as, and then Abu Mhmd Nasafi in his book called Bahr al-Kalam. The Salafis do not accept Wasiyya and not Bahr al-Kalam, but my speech is addressed to the Hanafis who are following this opinion also. So in Bahr al-Kalam he says, قالت الكرامية. Karamiya say, إن الله تعالى استقر على العرش حتى امتلأ منه. Karamiya says that Allah settled on arsh, so he is filling the arsh. There is no empty space in there, so he is filling all arsh. And then he gives the proofs of that, and then basically after that, just to reply back, he says, and Ali radiallahu anhu says, أنه سئل أين كان ربنا قبل أن يخلق العرش. So someone came to Imam Ali saying where Allah was before creating the arsh. So in this statement, Imam Ali replies back saying, أين سؤال عن المكان. When you say where, it is questioning about the space of existence. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى وَلَا مَكَانْ وَلَا زَمَانٍ. But Allah was even before there was space and time. وَهُوَ الْآنَ كَمَا كَانَ. And Allah now is as He was before creating them. Okay. As well as the rest of the statements. And there are quotations actually, if we have a time.
But Sheikh, isn't that statement from Hazrat Ali is very clear?
Yeah, it is very, very clear.
Some say that the sanad, it's in the sex, in the book of sex fiqh.
Okay, no, it is narrated in many, many books, but in terms of chain, I do not think that there is any chain. Okay.
The criticism of this.
Okay, no, it's okay, but anyway, it's still. I mean, our statement is still there. Okay, because anything which is not attributed to God through tawatur, that is denied, even if Ali radiallahu anhu's chain is there or not. Okay, so that's the thing. And also, it is in Najm al-Muhtadi quotation from Imam Shafi'i radiallahu anhu, who says, "Man ya'taqada anna Allah jalisun ala al-arsh fahuwa kafir." Imam Shafi'i says, anyone who believes that God is sitting on arsh, so he is kafir. Imam Abu Hanifa says, "Man qala bihuduthi sifatin min sifatillahi aw shakka wa tawaqqafa kafar." It is in Wasiyya. Anyone who believes that one of the attributes became after not being, or he doubts that it could happen, so he is that is kufr. Okay, as well as because my speech is addressed to the Hanafi, so it is in Fatawa Hindiya. He says, Sheikh Nizam al-Hindi says in Fatawa Hindiya, "Yakfuru bi ithbat al-makan." Anyone who attributes space to God, he is kafir, because those brothers are from the Hanafi background. As well as Muhammad ibn Badruddin ibn Balban al-Dimashqi al-Hanbali says, فَمَنْ يَعْتَقَدَ أَوْ قَالَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِذَاتِهِ فِي كُلِّ مَكَانٍ أَوْ فِي مَكَانٍ فَكَافِرٌ. So this scholar says, anyone who believes or says that God by himself is everywhere or in some place, so he is kafir. As well as Imam Nawawi says, in Rawdat al-Talibin. So he says, "Man wasaf Allah bil ittisal wal infisal kana kafir." Anyone who believes that God is attached or detached, so he is kafir. Yeah. So many. There are many other quotations actually, and Imam Suyuti in his book called Al-Ashbah wal-Nadhair, it's a fiqh book. He quotes from Imam Shafi'i, in which Imam Shafi'i says, "Al-Mujassimu kafir." Mujassim is kafir. It's very obvious. As well as in Aqeeda Tahawiyya, Abu Hanifa says, "Man wasaf Allah bima'nan min ma'ani al-bashar." Anyone who attributes to God one of the attributes of a human being, he is kafir. Sitting, standing, jumping, yeah, turning around, etc. And there are any other things. And the statement of Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, in which he says, in Bada'i al-Fawaid, he says, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah says, يجلس على عرشه الله إن الله, indeed Allah, يجلس على عرشه, he sits. Julus is nowhere in the authentic hadith. So it's from Ibn Qayyim. ويجلس بجنبه محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم, and then Allah will make Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم to sit next to him, بجنبه, just next to him. وهذا هو المقام المحمود, and that is the meaning of المقام المحمود. It's a bit strange. I really feel somebody is how a human being can attribute all of these to God. Okay, so just I would like to finalize this topic by what Imam Abu al-Faraj Ibn al-Jawzi, everyone knows who Ibn al-Jawzi is, said, because Ibn al-Jawzi is Hanbali, so he's speaking about his own Hanbali scholars, saying, his book is very famous, Daf' Shubah al-Tashbih. In that book he says, وَرَأَيْتُ مِنْ أَصْحَابِنَا مَنْ تَكَلَّمَ فِي الْأُصُولِ بِمَا لَا يَصْلُحُ, and I found our Hanbali scholars who speaks about the Aqeeda matters as something which is very bad, not suitable. وَانْتَدَبَ لِلتَّصْنِيفِ ثَلَاثَةً, and there are 3 of them have written books, and Abu Abdullah ibn Hamid, وَصَاحِبُهُ الْقَاضِي, and he did mention all of them 3, and then he says, فَصَنَّفُوا كُتُبًا شَانُوا بِهَا, so them 3 people have written a book by which they brought a blame into our Hanbali madhab, all of the Tajsimi Aqidas. Then he says, وَرَأَيْتُهُمْ قَدْ نَزُلُوا إِلَى رُتْبَةِ الْعَوَامِ, and I saw them, they went so low that they became like ignorant people, Then he says, فَحَمَلُوا الصِّفَاتِ عَلَى مُقْتَضَى الْحِسْ, and then they have given interpretation to the attributes of God as is sensible, okay, as you can witness, see, فَسَمِعُوا, so they found the hadith in which أن الله تعالى خلق آدم على صورته فأثبتوا له صورة ووجها زائدا على الذات. So they found that there is hadith in which it says that Allah created Adam in his own picture, in his own image. So by that, Hanbali, these 3 scholars, attributed to God a picture, image, ووجها, and face, which is beside his nature, وعينين, and 2 eyes, وفما, and mouth, lahawat. Lahawat is, do you know that on top of our throat we have that flesh?
Tonsils.
Yeah, so they attributed that to God also. Wa-adras, and teeth also, they attributed. Wa-adwali wajhi, and also light of his face, Wa-yadani, and 2 hands. Wa-kaffan, and also palm. Wa-khinsar, and ibham, okay, them 2 fingers. Okay, وَصَدْرًا, and also chest, وَفَخِذًا, these, سَاقَيْن, these, okay, and رِجْلَيْن, 2 legs, okay, وَقَالُوا, and they said, مَا سَمِعْنَا بِذِكْرِ الرَّأْسِ, and the same Hanbali scholar said, we cannot attribute head to God because so far we haven't heard any hadith about head, or otherwise we would do. Yeah, so Ibn al-Jawzi is just criticizing them. So then he says, وَقَالُوا, and those scholars said, Hanbali scholars said, يَجُوزُ أَنْ يَمُسَّ وَيُمَسَّ, and it is possible that he can touch you and you can touch him. Okay, touchable actually. وَيُدْنِي الْعَبْدَ مِنْ ذَاتِ, and he will make his slave closer to himself, as person, as distance. وَقَالَ بَعْضُهُمْ, and some of them said, يَتَنَفَّسُ, he breathes. Okay, it is in Darimi. So he says, the difference between a life and death is breathing. I'm sorry, the difference between a death and life is moving, so God moves. So it is attributing to God by analogy. Forget about mutawatir and ahad, but still analogy is usable, you know. Yes. And then ثُمَّ يُرْدُونَ الْعَوَامِ, but after that they try to please the ignorant people by saying لَا كَمَا يُقَالْ, is not how you imagine. So after that, after a couple of lines, Ibn al-Jawzi says ثُمَّ يَتَحَرَّجُونَ مِنَ التَّشْبِيهِ وَيَأْنَفُونَ مِنْ إِضَافَتِهِ إِلَيْهِ. And after all of these statements, they say, actually, you know, we are free from tashbih, actually, we are not there, you know. Well, please do not be insane, you know. وَيَقُولُونَ, and they say, نَحْنُ أَهْلُ السُنَّةِ, we are the people of Sunnah, you know. وَكَلَامُهُمْ صَرِيحٌ فِي. But what they say is actually is tashbih. Okay, literally it is tashbih. وَقَدْ تَبِعَهُمْ خَلْقٌ مِنَ الْعَوَامِ, and there are a big number of ignorant people, they did follow them. فَقَدْ نَصَحْتُ التَّابِعَ وَالْمَتْبُوعَ, but I gave them nasiha, advice, to their leaders and to those who follow them to not to do it. فَقُلْتُ لَهُمْ, so I told them, يَا أَصْحَابَنَا, I told them, all our Hanbalis, أَنْتُمْ أَصْحَابُ نَقْلٍ, you are the people of narration. وَإِمَامُكُمُ الْأَكْبَرُ أَحْمَدُ بْنُ الْحَنْبَلِ, and your imam is the greatest, Ahmad ibn Hanbal. يقولون, so then he says يقول وهو تحت الصياد كيف أقول ما لم ينقل أو ما لم يقل. And don't forget that your imam is Imam Ahmad, and him being after the lashes, in that status he used to say, how do you want me to say something that Rasulullah did not say? And you guys being followers of Imam Ahmad, you are saying something that Rasulullah never said, you know. So that he says that was my advice to them. So then he says فَإِيَّاكُمْ أَن تَبْتَعِدُوا فِي مَذْهَبِهِ مَا لَيْسَ مِنْهُ, and then تَبْتَدِعُوا فِي مَذْهَبِهِ. So I do warn you all people to make innovation in the madhab of Imam Ahmad, which Imam Ahmad never said. And after that, after a couple of lines again, Imam Ibn al-Jawzi says فَرَأَيْتُ الرَّدَّ عَلَيْهِمْ لَازِمًا لِأَلَّا يُنْسَبَ الْإِمَامِ أَحْمَدِ إِلَى ذَلِكَ. So then he says, so that was the reason for me to write this book, just to reply back to them, because I don't want this type of tashbih aqeedah to be attributed to Imam Ahmad. So that was the statement of Imam Ibn al-Jawzi, and walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.